All right, we are recording. I'll be back.
All right. Morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Excited to get rolling with you all. My name is Peter Kelpin, and as Leanne said, have worked with y'all and Cabarrus for quite a few years around the EVERFI program. Just as we're getting started, first things first, if you have any questions today that I don't directly answer as we're kind of going through, please don't hesitate to send me an email. My colleague, Jess Richter, is leading a session right now for science teachers. So we are not together on this one, but Jess is also available to you all for questions. She's actually a former Cabarrus County Schools educator, was there for quite a few years, so is well used to working with y'all and is excited to help if anything kind of comes up. The other thing, as Lan said, there's only 6 of y'all on this call. So as we're kind of going through today, please don't hesitate to come off mute. I used to be a 7th grade special education teacher, so I am well and ready to be interrupted and then to keep rolling. So don't feel like you can't jump in and ask me questions. But my hope today is that as we go through this program, we go through this presentation, that we get kind of up to speed in terms of EVERFI, what we are, what we have to offer already for Cabarrus, and that you all leave here feeling like this is something that might be helpful for you as you come back to school, kind of in the second half of this weird school year. So as we're getting started off, the first question that I just wanted to ask y'all is, how familiar are you all with EVERFI on a scale of 0 to 5? 0 being I know nothing, 5 being I know everything. And I think you can just come off mute. I don't have access to the chat.
Oh, I have been to a PD that was mostly high school, so this is the first time I've seen one for middle school.
Awesome. Other folks?
Everybody else in the chat is saying 0.
0, fantastic. Zeros are my favorite. Zeros mean I have work to do. Sorry, Tiffany, I saw that you came off mute.
It's okay. I've heard of it. I've just never done anything with it.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Hey, Caitlin, I see you.
I'm only a 2nd year teacher, but I used it when I was student teaching, and actually started using it last year, and I'm still using it this year.
Awesome, that's great. Where did you student teach?
I student taught at Harry M. Art Middle School in Hickory. So
okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. That's great. Cool. Well, that's some good representation across the board. That's always great for me to hear too, in terms of the teacher, as you're going through kind of the beginning teacher stages, because I always have conversations with folks at higher education institutions about kind of sharing EVERFI resources with new teachers. So it's great to hear that, Caitlin, that you actually use it in that kind of student teaching section. That's really cool. Awesome. All right. So for those of you that are zeros and no idea, just a very quick who we are and what we do. And then I really want to make sure that the majority of this time today is just the kind of the meat and potatoes of how you actually access EVERFI. So we are a K-12 digital learning company. All of our resources are supplemental resources that talk about different critical skill areas that I'm going to kind of highlight on our next slide. What makes us really different from other education technology companies is that in lieu of charging you all license fees for the different programs that we offer, we bring together various public and private partners that underwrite fully the cost of all of our digital resources. So when you all get logged into EVERFI today, which is available via Clever, I know Leanne shared that with you all in an email prior to this training, it's already fully underwritten by somebody else. So I like to make that super clear. This is not something that Leanne has purchased. This is not something that Cabarrus County Schools has purchased. This is something that we bring to you all through funding because we want to make sure that this really high quality resource is not something that you have to pay for. So we like to say we're not freemium. Somebody is paying for the resource, but it's just not y'all. So I have a really fun job where I don't ever have to ask for money. I just need to make sure that the money that's been spent is being used out there in the world, which is awesome. We as a company are really focused on a variety of issues that we all know as adults are just really important, ways that we interact with society. So we started in about 10 years ago in the financial education space. And I think as you all, as folks that are teaching social studies that have financial literacy standards in your curriculum that are just, adults living in our world can understand, financial literacy is just a massively important topic that we wanted to be a part of helping to kind of solve and bring out into the world and make it known. I think it's pretty clear, a lot of the statistics that you're seeing on the slide in front of me paint a pretty grim picture about why financial literacy is so important to teach. But outside of financial literacy, what we've started to think about, which we'll talk about a little bit today, are those kind of other problems that we want to be a part of solving that all kind of come into this idea of how we make our world a better place. So today we'll talk about this idea of building a diverse idea about different cultures. So understanding African American history, understanding Jewish American history, and then our broader commitment to diversity as we kind of go down the line. Because we know that building a more building students that understand various cultures leads to net positive benefits. We know that students that think about others are less likely to bully other students. We know that students that are thinking about others are more likely to engage in positive conversations. And we also know that students that are being bullied less, that have less of a focus on the differences around them, but are thinking more about the similarities, are more apt to learn and are going to be better students for you all. So we're just excited to work and kind of solve some of these larger problems. Just very quickly, I'll kind of give you an example of how our funding works, because I think it's important to share as we kind of talk about our resources. So today we're going to spend some time talking about FutureSmart, which is our middle school financial literacy resource. FutureSmart is funded nationally by the MassMutual Foundation. So anywhere you go in the United States, MassMutual has underwritten the FutureSmart program for middle school. And through that funding, every single middle school has access to unlimited licenses to the FutureSmart program. So you all never have to worry about, I can only have 10 students on the program at one time. I can have 5. You can have any number of students using FutureSmart at any time because of that funding. That funding also allows for us to do our jobs, so to make sure that you all feel comfortable using the program and that you get our ongoing support. As Leanne said, we've worked together for years, so we've gone through clever integrations, we've gone through professional development, and it's been great to be along for the ride for that. So that kind of enables us to do that work as well. The last thing that the sponsorship allows us to do are some pretty interesting sponsorship opportunities. So we as a company offer scholarships throughout the entire year that are associated with the MassMutual program. And I'll kind of share with you all how you can find those on our website. But in addition to that, we do various sponsor opportunities. So we've done like virtual MassMutual visits where they'll play financial literacy games with students. We offer these opportunities because we know it's important for students to really see learning come alive in lots of different ways, not just through the digital program, but by putting into practice with other folks. So I like to show this because I think like the biggest question I always get, and I'm always glad that Leanne's on the call, is how is this possible? Is this real? It sounds like this is not something that's actually possible, that this is a free program for us. So I like to point that out. Cool. So before I dive into the kind of 3 resources that I wanted to highlight today for you all that I think are most aligned to the work that you're doing in the middle school social studies world, I'll pause on this slide for a minute and just share with you all of the resources that are available to you all in the middle school world. So we're going to focus today on FutureSmart. We're going to focus on 306 African American history, and we're going to focus on BNOT, which is anti-Semitism prevention. Outside of those 3 resources, we offer STEM career exploration, social and emotional learning, health and wellness, and sustainability resources now for middle school. Just right now, with middle school science teachers, is talking about our sustainability and our STEM and career exploration resources. The one thing I'll share is sometimes we've seen middle school social studies teachers use our character playbook resource as they talk about civics in their classroom. This is a bullying prevention resource, something that we've shared with health and PE teachers in the district as well. But just one I highlight here, a good example of this in Cumberland County, all of their 7th grade social studies teachers use this resource as part of their just kind of general like C3 framework in social studies. So wanted to highlight this as well. So if any of these other ones are of interest to you, they're available to you on the platform and ones that you can kind of check out. Before I move into FutureSmart and just actually show you what this program looks like, any questions so far about who we are, what we do, before I kind of dive in? And again, you can come right off mute with any questions because I can't see the chat. Or raise your hand or whatever makes sense. And if not, no worries, we'll keep rolling.
There's nothing in the chat, Peter.
Okay, cool. All right, so what we're gonna dig in first today is FutureSmart. So FutureSmart is our middle school financial literacy resource. And for those of you that are in the 7th and 8th grade, right now within your standards, FutureSmart is directly aligned as you think about the personal financial literacy standards that you need to cover in those 2 grade levels. I'm going to actually jump out in a minute and show you what FutureSmart actually looks like, but just kind of in brief. All EVERFI resources are digital first. So what I like to say is while we offer offline resources that kind of supplement the digital resources that I'm going to show you all, the real star of the show is our digital lessons. So within FutureSmart, there are 7 lessons. Each of those lessons about 20 to 25 minutes long. And what they do is they have students in an interactive simulation-based way think about various personal financial literacy problems and personal financial literacy answers that they'd have. So has them really think about scenarios in context for their world. And I'm going to pull it up. I think that's the best way to show it. So I'm going to unshare and then share my other screen. Make sure you can see it. And you might have been able to see it, but just making sure. So this is the actual FutureSmart program. So this is something that your students would access on their personal device. So when you think about EVERFI, what I want you to think about is your digital resources are independent resources that your students are doing at their own pace on their device. It might be something that they're doing at home in the kind of remote world that we're living in right now. When and if we get back to a more blended in-person approach this school year, and some of you may already be in that approach, this is something that you can do in small independent sections in your classroom prior to maybe a bigger discussion that you're having about a personal financial literacy topic. And then this is also just great homework. So knowing that your students are one-to-one, assuming that your students have a viable internet connection at home, you can assign this as kind of a post-assessment for maybe a lesson that you've done around one of these topics that we're going to show in here. So I want you just to think independent first and something that your students can do in any of the settings that you're currently working in, whether that's remote, in person, or kind of a blend of the 2. So when students log into FutureSmart, they assume the role of a mayor. We're going to skip that and jump right into a lesson, but it is pretty fun. And this gets into the kind of civics part of this course too, which I think about a lot as a former 7th grade teacher, has students really think about how communities come together to solve problems. It is a little unrealistic about what a mayor does for their town, but I think that's okay. At least they're seeing the civic action and civic duty in progress and seeing a mayor kind of listen to their townspeople concerns. So we'll jump into one that's kind of related to the financial literacy standards that you all cover in social studies. So smart shopping is about a student thinking through a decision related to their budget. So they're going to think about a problem. They want to redecorate their room, which is maybe something that your students are thinking about right now a lot as they have to be on Zoom all the time. I certainly am thinking about that in my office all the time. And then they're going to kind of work through the ideas of opportunity cost, ideas of budgeting, ideas of making smart decisions around when and how to save. And they're going to put that into practice as they build their room out. So we'll jump right in. And hopefully this will load. I know with the Zoom sometimes my computer gets a little slow. I may need to pop out and pop that back in. Give me 30 seconds. I'm going to unshare. Sorry about that. As I'm pulling that up, any questions from y'all?
There's nothing in the chat still.
Okay.
And we get it. Teams, I don't know if Teams slows everybody else's computer down, but it slows mine down. And when I was teaching, it would take forever for Canvas and Google to load. And I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and I got duped because it was loaded in the background, and I was like, okay, this is great. But clearly I was incorrect.
And I did, while we're waiting on the screen to load, I did drop the sign in again into the chat. So don't forget to do that, because I want you guys to get credit for being present and get your CEUs for your content area.
Hopefully having good. Okay. Working through Microsoft Teams. That's good. That's good. All right. Hopefully having this in a separate window will be helpful. Can you all see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. No. Okay. I'll come back to this in a second. I'm a little concerned about my computer's fan is very loud right now, and I'm thinking maybe I've burned myself out. But what I'll do is I'll go back to the presentation and load this in the background and share with you all a different resource, and then we will come back here. All right.
And Peter, I might also be able to bring up my dashboard.
Yeah, I'm curious if maybe what we should just do is get folks onto their Clever dashboard, and then they can work through it independently too. So let me just run through the remainder of the programs, and then we'll kind of get rolling on getting into Clever, and then folks can kind of explore at their own pace.
Yeah, because you'll have to show them that since I don't have Clever.
Yeah. Okay. So Future Smart, we'll get back into, but those individual simulations are ones that your students can work through independently to learn about all of those various topics in regards to budgeting, thinking about opportunity cost, and then as they go through the program, thinking about higher level concepts of financial literacy. So starting a small business, thinking about how I might save over time if I wanted to make this larger purchase, which might be funding a business for myself. They might also think about topics like long-term investment portfolios. So that's kind of the last part of the Future Smart lesson, where they're really thinking about what is my future going to look like as I think strategically about long-term. So it gets into that idea of how do the decisions that I make now as a middle schooler impact my long-term financial health. As we keep going, two other resources that I wanted to highlight for y'all. So 306 African American History is a resource that we see used often in middle school, sometimes targeted around the February month, so targeted around Black History Month, but also something that you can use throughout the school year to think about various aspects of how African American people and leaders have really impacted American history. This course starts at the transatlantic slave trade and thinks about modern day civil rights up to Mae Jemison. So thinking about Mae Jemison as the first Black female astronaut. What is great about this course is as we get into January, so at the end of January, we will add 3 new modules to this course that are around modern Black history. So thinking about the period of post Mae Jemison to today as we think about Black leadership. So thinking about folks like John Lewis and thinking about his accomplishments over time in Congress and thinking about just how we really lift up stories of Black people in the world today. This course is set up like a virtual museum, which is really interesting. So what students are doing as they go through this course is they're looking at vignettes of periods of time and then answering various pre and post questions about those vignettes in time. So, you might think about in this lesson, students are learning about Frederick Douglass. So they'll go into an interactive exhibit about Frederick Douglass, where they'll hear a recording of one of his speeches. And then they will think about the topics that he's brought up in his speeches as they've kind of gone through this vignette. So this course is slightly shorter than Future Smart. Each of those 15-minute lessons are really only about 5 to 10 minutes each. So this is something that students can work through really quickly independently. You can think about this as something that might take only 1 to 2 class periods. So again, something great to kind of sprinkle throughout the year with those short 5-minute vignettes being kind of your warm-up activities, or something that you can do in a more targeted way in a specific period of time in a year, as you do kind of short lessons about Black history, maybe over the entire month of February. The last course I'll share before I walk us through kind of getting logged in, and Leanne, I saw you come off mute. Do you have a question?
I was just going to let you know that Caitlin commented in the chat that she uses 306 as a resource in her class and loves it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I had added it. I don't know if it's in a lot of the middle school curriculum documents, but I know I went through a year or two ago and I put links to the 306 where they aligned in both our U.S. world and I think 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies courses. So this is one that has probably popped up in their curriculum somewhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm
really excited.
Really excited for the refresh. I think this course is great. It has lots of awesome content in it, but I'm excited that we're bringing it into the modern era. And we worked with Dr. Claiborne Carson, who directed the MLK libraries, to build the original version of this course. So we work with really exceptional content experts as we kind of build and grow, are building and growing this course as well. The last course that I'm very excited about is BINA, which is our new anti-Semitism and hate prevention course. So it's interesting with EVERFI, going back to our kind of funding model, when we build our resources, we ask our funders to underwrite the cost, but we often won't ask our funders to provide context for the course. So if you think about the Future Smart course that I showed previously, we built that in-house. The Mass Mutual Foundation didn't give us any insights in terms of what our curriculum should look like, because we wanted to make sure that we maintained editorial power over the creation of that course. BINA is different. BINA was built directly with the Anti-Defamation League because we know that the Anti-Defamation League has an incredible amount of expertise around understanding anti-Semitism and around combating hate. So BINA just released, came out in October of this school year. It says 9th through 12th here, but this is definitely something that you can use at the middle school level as well. It is 4 lessons. Each of the lessons only about 15 minutes in length. And what they focus on is a narrative history of modern Jewish culture, thinking through stories around kind of going all the way to like creation of Judaism and thinking about Judaism in the context of the modern world, through the Holocaust, and then through modern day anti-Semitism. So really painted as a narrative way to think about anti-Semitism through stories of people that are in Jewish culture. What is really incredible about this course too are the wraparound resources that we've built with the Anti-Defamation League. So some of you may be familiar with some of their anti-hate resources. We're really tapped into that as well. So you can think about this as a really holistic combination of both historical thinking, but then also modern civic and cultural thinking. So a way to really build those two together as you're thinking about anti-Semitism in the world today. Okay, so in lieu of trying to get my computer to load on my end, I'm going to get us logged into Clever on your end. Before I do there, any questions around EVERFI resources so far? Anything in the chat or any?
No, nothing in the chat. You guys good? You don't have any questions or comments? Anything you want to know more about?
I'm going to come back here to these kind of implementation guides. What I'm going to do now is just kind of walk you through getting started with EVERFI. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you will want to navigate to your Clever portal. So I'm going to leave this slide up. I'm going to see if I can get any of the programs to load in the background while we're doing this. So first things first, you'll want to navigate to Clever, and then you will want to find the EVERFI app on Clever. And as we're doing this, you can come off mute if you're running into any issues. We had 1 or 2 very small tech issues in the last 2 presentations we did on Friday that we were able to resolve pretty quickly. So just want to make sure if there are any issues, we nip them in the butt today.
Yeah, you can put it into the chat or just unmute and let us know if you can't get into Clever for some reason or into the EVERFI app, or if you don't see the EVERFI app there in Clever. I myself do not have Clever, so that would be something that we'd have to troubleshoot outside, but the EVERFI, Peter can also look at that.
So this is Genesis. When I pull it up and I click on it, it says, welcome to EVERFI. If you already have an account in our system, feel free to link by adding your information below. It says email and password. Is that my login for Cabarrus County?
You're good. You can skip that.
Okay, so just dismiss that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. All right. So unless there are any other issues, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pull up Clever so you all can see what that looks like. I'm going to come out of this, log into Clever. So hopefully most of y'all are familiar with Clever, but what Clever enables us to do is automatically have your student information assigned to your EVERFI account. So in lieu of having to create separate usernames or passwords for your students, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to directly assign EVERFI resources to your students without the need to have them use any sort of codes or any sort of passwords, anything to that effect. They're just going to be able to log in and see the resources. Yeah. Okay. Everything running exceptionally slowly. Sorry about that, y'all.
So my EVERFI is currently empty. Do I have to create the class and all that stuff in there?
It should be empty. That's good. We're going to walk through how to add courses and all those good things right now. But yes, it should be empty. Unless you've used it previously, it would have resources there, but otherwise, you should see a blank dashboard. So for the most part, y'all should see a page that is similar to this, though what you are likely seeing here that there are no courses. So you're likely just seeing home, catalog, support, and you're seeing this button that says add course. The first thing that we're going to do is you're going to click add course. So when you click add course, you're going to be brought to the EVERFI catalog, where you're going to see all of the available resources for your school. So a couple of things that I'll just point out as we're getting onto this page. You may see some courses that say request. A course that requires a request is just a course that is not necessarily already set up for your school. It could be because it's not yet released, or it could be because it's for the wrong grade level. So a good example of this, you may see the course Compassion Project. It is likely a request-only course for your school because that's typically something that's used at only 2nd or 3rd grade. So not something that's typically used at middle school. So when you get logged in, the first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to go to Financial Education, and you'll want to scroll until you find Future Smart. And what you'll do there is you'll click Add. It may take a minute to load. But then you'll get this green pop-up banner that says FutureSmart has been successfully added to your account. Once you've added FutureSmart, you can scroll down to Social and Emotional Learning. And under Social and Emotional Learning, you can find BANA, which may be your request course because it's so new. And then you can also scroll down to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And that's where you can find 306. Those courses may both be requests because they're typically set up for high schools. But again, those are both resources that are certainly appropriate for middle school as well. One course I will just denote here is our Diversity Foundations course. This course is not appropriate for middle school, definitely a high school level only course. If you're curious in it, curious to explore the course, you're welcome to request it and add it to your dashboard. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend using this with your middle school students, just as a note. If you're ever in here and you have any questions about whether this course might or might not be appropriate for my students, you can always send us an email and just ask us a question. Before we get into the class creation process, if you click on support, you'll see schools manager here, and you can find the email address for Jess here if you ever have any questions, just so we all see that here. Awesome. So once you've added courses, what you'll do next is you'll click Home, and it'll bring you to the EVERFI main page. The first course you'll see is whatever is the last course that you've added. So I added FutureSmart last, so it's going to be the first course that I see in my dashboard. Couple of important things about the EVERFI platform that I'm going to give you all some time to explore, but are just ways that you can kind of learn our resources better. So before you create a class and assign to your students, you can review the EVERFI course content by clicking View Course. This is going to bring you to a demo version of the course where you can click through the modules. Again, for the sake of time on my side, just because I know that I'm having some loading issues, I'm not going to click into any of these modules. But on your side, when you click in here, when you click Start on any of these modules, you should be able to work through them and skip through each of the sections of the course and just kind of get an
Hey, Peter.
Yep.
Sorry, where is Tiffany Service says she doesn't have FutureSmart under her courses to add. Where does it hide out? Financial literacy, grade 6-8?
It would be under FutureSmart. Excuse me, it'd be under financial literacy. Sorry, Tiffany. Tiffany, are you at a middle school or a high school?
I'm in middle school. I'm in CVA.
Okay. Let me just take a look at that on my side in a minute. It may be that we have not yet added it for your school. The Virtual Academy I was looking at the other day, I think we have not added all the right courses to Virtual Academy yet. So I will take a look at that in 2 minutes. So when you click View Course, we'll bring you to the demo. It'll open it in a new tab. When you're finished with the demo, you can close it out, and then you can go back to the main page. The other important thing that I'll show to y'all before I show you how to assign classes is if you click Resources, Resources is going to bring up to you the non-digital resources that supplement the digital experience. So as I said a little bit earlier, EVERFI is certainly digital first. So our digital supplemental lessons are certainly kind of the bread and butter. Those are the things that your students are going to be working through independently. But if you have students that have done the Smart Shopping lesson online, and then maybe you'd like to do an extension lesson plan with them, we've actually built a variety of traditional lesson plans and traditional discussion questions that go along with the content that your students have seen in their digital lesson. So for example, if you've assigned the Smart Shopping lesson to be a digital thing that students are doing independently at home, the next day, whether that be in a live virtual environment or whether that be in a live in-person environment, you might do this virtual shopping lesson as a way to just solidify the information that students have learned. So a great way for students to really understand opportunity cost and really kind of get a broader understanding of that topic that's aligned to that standard that y'all are working through. The other thing that I think is interesting here, we have built a glossary, so independent vocabulary terms, reflection questions that you can do outside of that, and then additional student resources. So lots of things that go along with our resources outside of the digital environment. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to create a class. But before I get there, any other questions? Tiffany, that was a good one. I'm going to look at that. I'm actually pulling it up in the background to take a look at that. Any other questions that y'all have as we're kind of getting into now, how do my students get started?
Hi, there are no
Okay.
questions in the chat other than the one from Tiffany from earlier.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So assigning EVERFI resources to your students is very simple. What you will do to assign a resource to your students is you will click Create a Class next to that resource. And what will pop up when you create a class is a drop-down menu that looks exactly like this. The first thing that you'll do is you will select the appropriate section to which you'd like the EVERFI resource to be assigned to. So I'm using an elementary school as my demo here, but what you'll want to do is you'll want to find your appropriate grade level social studies class. Select the start date for that course. So I'm going to select January 2021, knowing that we're at the end of December. Approximate number of students, and then the grade level for that course. Just a couple of things that I'll point out here. Start date only matters in so much as we will send you a help email at the beginning of that month, just to see if you need any help getting started. Class size and grade level are just for you all. They are not things that impact the course in any way. And then the last and most important thing is underneath courses, you'll want to make sure that Future Smart is selected there. If you do not see any courses there, you will click Add Courses, and then you will check the box next to any other resources that you'd like students to have access to. Once you've done a kind of a double check here and you have the right section, the right start date, the right course, you'll click Create. When you click Create, that class will become created. And what will happen is that all of the students that are in the roster for this section that you've selected will now gain access to that EVERFI resource. An important thing to note here, if I was to click students right now, I would not see any students in this class, and that's okay. Your students will not show until they log into Clever and they click the EVERFI application after you've created their class. So again, totally normal for there to be no students in that. What will happen is once you've created this class, your students will log in, they will click on the EVERFI application, and then they will see the Future Smart resource pop up in their dashboard. It's 9:40, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave my screen share. I'm going to fix Tiffany's the problem at the virtual school, and then I'm going to come back in 5 minutes to kind of close out our presentation. During this 5 minutes, what I'd recommend that you all do is go back to that Courses tab, click on View Course or click on Resources, and just kind of explore whichever resource you've added to your dashboard. So with that, I'm going to come out of the screen share, and I'm going to give you all 5 minutes to just kind of explore on your own, and we will come back at 9:45. And as you're kind of exploring, don't hesitate to come off mute, ask me any questions as you're kind of looking around.
Yeah, or come off mute, and you can always talk to each other too and use the chat.
Tiffany, I see the issue. I'm gonna work to fix that right now. And then just so I know, are any folks having any issues accessing the demo of the course on their end? Just because I know I've had an issue getting mine to load. Just want to make sure that's not an issue on y'all's end as well.
Nothing in the chat about that or anything.
Okay, good. All right. All right. I'm going to come back. I'm going to kind of close out. Tiffany, just so to keep you updated, what I'm seeing is it looks like we actually need to create the virtual school. It looks like that has not yet been created in our system, which is kind of interesting. So I'm just fixing that right now. I should be able to have that done by about 10 a.m. But right by the end of this. So now that you've kind of created your EVERFI account, what I wanted to just share with you were a couple of resources that might be helpful as you start to think about how you might be able to use this resource with your students. So we've kind of talked about a couple of ways already that you might be able to use this kind of independent digital side of the resource. But just to make it visual, and also you'll have this in a copy of the presentation deck that I'll share with Leanne. We've seen in this kind of fall 2020 period where schools are a mix of virtual in person only. We've seen these resources used in a variety of different ways. So a great way to do an extension activity, both virtual or in person. Great if you're doing kind of socially distanced centers for students. So if you have students in an in-person environment, at any point in this school year, they can kind of do these independently in their own stations. And then a great way for them to do kind of flipped classrooms, so them to be prepared for maybe a larger discussion that you're doing in class around, be it financial literacy, African American history, or any other sort of kind of culturally relevant topics that you're talking about, maybe current events in terms of anti-Semitism or hate. The other thing that we've seen to be really helpful is to help folks to kind of integrate EVERFI into their Canvas pages. So the next is a bit.ly link. And I know, Leanne, I don't have the ability to type this into the chat, but via this bit.ly link, you'll find basically, and I'll pull it up, a couple of different helpful tools for yourself as you think about the planning stage and next steps here. So you'll think about, we have an entire guide to LMS integration is the wrong word, but using EVERFI with your LMS. We do not directly integrate into learning management systems, but as you're building out Canvas pages, we can give you the right links and the right kind of page resources that you can use to really get yourself set up so that students can access EVERFI without leaving your Canvas page at all, except to go to the EVERFI app. The other thing that we've built, which I'll just pull up because I think they're really interesting, are just additional supplemental resources to help you really build out the experience of using the EVERFI resource. So what I mean there is we've built tools that help you convert lessons to be entirely non-digital. So if you have students that are virtual but do not have reliable internet access, but you'd like them to look at the EVERFI resources at home, the topics covered in them, we've built offline lessons that don't require any sort of digital resource, any sort of digital connection that you can find in this toolkit. We've also built guided notes for some of our resources as well. So things that allow you to kind of work through in a more guided way for those resources. And then we've also just built, and I think that's kind of higher up, just some kind of like other helpful videos for you as you're thinking about using EVERFI. So again, we have a video about EVERFI and Canvas, but then some other, quick start guides for like EVERFI and Clever. So if you have any questions about things like that. So just like to show this as well. And then you can click down and then there are no tech resources. The things that don't require any sort of tech, but things that you can do at home. So with that, I'll just kind of pop back into the presentation. We've talked through the Clever piece. The last thing I'll show to you is just what to expect when your students log into EVERFI for the first time. So I'll get out of the presentation, jump back over to Clever, go to my demo school. You are going to see a little bit of the inner workings of behind the scenes. At Pineapple Elementary School, which is my demo school. We previously set up Leo's social studies class. So we're going to log in as one of Leo's students. Your students will get here by logging in to their Clever portal and then clicking the EVERFI app. And once they've done that, they'll see this page right here. So they'll see kind of their EVERFI login screen. A couple of important things just to note here. Your students should see their courses under current courses. Please just let them know not to go to the remote courses banner. This is something that we're using specifically if families would like to directly assign EVERFI resources. Your students should be going to current courses to see their resources. Once they've done that, they can see their progress by clicking progress. You'll also be able to see this progress on your dashboard. And then if they click start, it will bring them directly out to their curriculum, and they're going to work through this independently. And because it's a demo school, some of the things don't work quite as well, so won't bring them back to the course after the survey. So they shouldn't have to do anything in regards to course codes. They should just see their resources right there. All right, with 9 minutes left, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my contact information and Jess's contact information back up. And then I'm just open to answer any questions that you all might have now as you're kind of thinking about all of the pieces of EVERFI as we're kind of putting them together.
So Peter, there's a question in the chat that says, does the progress show in Canvas or do we have to import data?
You have to import data. It's a good question. Let me actually show you what that looks like so that it's part of the recording as well. So if we go back to Leo's account, and I realized I didn't show this piece, so I'm glad that question was asked. When you go to reports and click a drop-down menu, and let's click venture, which is just another resource, you'll see all of the students that have logged in, and you'll see their progress as they've gone through, each of the lessons in the course. When you see this, as students are completing the courses, you'll see post-assessment scores here. So each of the lessons have pre and post assessments, and you'll see their post-assessment scores here. I was going to show this as part of the demo, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. But just so you know, all of the resources do have pre and post assessments built into them that are self-graded. So once Ruth has done her post assessments, you'll see the scores here. As she's completed them, and as all of your other students have completed them, this will populate with grade information. And then in order to get that grade information from our gradebook to Canvas, what you'll do is you'll save as CSV that gradebook, and then you should be able to upload our grade report to Canvas, though you may need to reformat the file that goes into Canvas itself. But instead of like copying and pasting from here, you can just download that CSV. It's an Excel file, manipulate that file, and then upload it to Canvas. So hopefully that helps and answers that question. That was a good one. Any other questions from folks out in the field?
Doesn't look like it. Yeah, come off mute if you guys have any questions or comments that you want to share.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Certainly end 5 minutes early. I know that it's technically break time for y'all, so I appreciate y'all asking great questions and being thoughtful participants today. Again, we'll share this slide deck. We'll share the recording. So as you all are planning for second semester, please don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to ask us any questions. Jess and I are here to help, and just hopeful that this is something that's helpful as you think about planning for for 2021, which is finally here.
And I put Jess's email in the chat so that you have access. But if for some reason you can't get them or you don't remember, just reach out to me and I'll put you in the right place and in touch with the right people. But if we don't have any questions, Peter and I will wrap it up. As I always end, remember you guys are the chosen people, and what you do does not go unnoticed. So yeah, you'll have access, Tiffany, at the CVA. Peter's working on fixing that now and getting the courses in there. Right, Peter?
Yes. Yep. I was doing that in the background right now.
Nice. So you guys go rest, enjoy your break, disconnect, turn off email, and just spend time with your families and recovering. You've earned 2 weeks off. Go enjoy it. And I will see you in the new year. May 2021 be better than 2020. So you guys have a great holiday and a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
And Tiffany, I'll just tell you directly.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Have a great Christmas.
Bye,
Thanks for
y'all
being
too.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't forget to sign in.